Hello, happy Valentine's Day. Today is Wednesday. That means it's hump day. That means I have to drop a episode of the podcast. This week, we are going to listen with my conversation with JP Lancaster of Facticum. Amazing interview. Take a listen.
All right,
check.
We are live. Yeah, check. We are here at Redbeard Cafe, one of the local community coffee spots, and I'm sitting across from JP Lancaster. It's been about a week and a half we've been trying to plan this meeting. JP, where are people going to know you from about in Kamloops?
A couple different avenues. Primarily, I work in music with my company Factotum, Cassettes and Oddities. So it's a label, it's a promotion company. It's kind of encompasses everything with live music. People might know me prior to that from I spent 3 years working for Red Collar, so highly involved in the beer community and community events as an extension of that.
Yeah, so Facticum. Sorry,
Yes,
how do I say it?
Factotum.
Factotum.
Yep. So it means a jack of all trades, is what the word refers to. It's also the title of a novel by an author I like, Charles Bukowski. But so kind of musically, what I thought is that it is something that encompasses a lot of different genres. Like it's not focused on one specific kind of music. So I thought the name was appropriate.
Yeah, totally. And you just dropped your mixtape right now, or you're selling pre-orders. Tell me a little bit about that, because it's a cassette. It's a little bit odd.
Yeah. So everything I put out is on cassette and digitally, of course. So kind of 1 foot in the past, 1 foot in the present. And tapes for me were, if you look at like the CD, for instance, laptops nowadays don't come with a CD drive. The only CD player that I have in my household is actually in my car. So cassettes, in my opinion, are just as commonplace as a CD, but maybe a bit more. There's a bit more interest to it because it's still an analog format. So you have tape as opposed to digital audio. So I thought that was cool. But yeah, so Engine Noise, it came out on January 26th. It's a 17-song compilation. And that was kind of my project for the 1-year anniversary of running Factotum, is to put something out that showcases local bands in town and bands who I've put on shows. So it's a mix of Kamloops bands and bands from out of town.
Okay, so are you recording these people in town? How are they getting the music to you?
So the way that worked, eventually I would like to be at the point where Factotum can take care of everything from recording to publishing, etc. For this, I was just getting bands to submit a song that had been recorded, mixed, and mastered already. But what was cool about that is a lot of the bands recorded a song specifically for this album. So there was a lot of new content created. And then I'm basically just curating it at that point. So I was contacting the bands, organizing the track list, taking care of the artwork, getting it printed, and then getting all the bands who are involved copies of the cassettes as well for them to sell. Yeah,
the brand has a very distinct look and feel to it in graphic design. I think that's a coworker of yours who's done that.
Yeah, Frank Lucas. So we work together at Red Collar. He is their graphic designer, so all the labels that you see on their products, everything to do with the brand is his work. And that kind of ties in with the community thing. What I wanted to do with Factotum is to support local musicians in the local scene, but then to branch out as well and try and employ people like local graphic designers, or Frank also does a lot of the photography for Factotum. And so that's really, it's creating something positive, I would believe, for the community and fostering live music, but then you're also trying to find work for people who work in the creative fields, which it's difficult to find work in.
Totally, yeah. And so as someone whose music repertoire is probably a little bit lacking these days, who listens to mostly on YouTube, how am I supposed to find Kamloops local artists? What's the best way or best channel? Who should I be rubbing shoulders with to hear something that's been produced here in Kamloops?
I guess that's kind of what I was hoping to do, was to be a platform to consolidate a lot of the local bands who I really believe strongly in and want to support. So that's, and I mean, obviously biased in what I'm doing, but I would say like Factotum, in my opinion, would be the first place to look. So for instance, you could go to our website, which is factotumco.ca, where we have a Bandcamp where all the digital releases are. So I'd like to believe that's kind of a great starting point to find out who are bands in town. Or the compilation album would be another instance of, like, you can kind of get that very quick snapshot, hear just one song from one artist, and get an idea of what you like and what you don't like.
Yeah, is there a particular genre that you're kind of focusing on?
I would say the overarching theme, I would call it outsider pop music. So it's pop music in the sense that, like, there's catchy melodies and that sort of stuff, nothing abrasive, but it doesn't fit within the paradigm of mainstream media like radio or mainstream music. So there's things that are different enough, or that's kind of the outsider perspective. So that's how I would classify it as. Like, it's not really music you're going to hear playing at the mall, but I believe that there's great content to it.
If I was to pop your cassette in, if I found myself a cassette player and I pop your cassette in, which track would you like people to kind of start with? What or have you already prearranged that?
I've already, on the compilation album, I did put a lot of thought into so I was kind of putting similar bands next to one another, and so I feel there's a bit of flow. So yeah, I would pop it in. The first artist, his name's Rory McClure, and it's just like, it's a great kind of mashup of classic country and like kind of 50s Everly Brothers style pop. So I just think that I chose that one because I think it's a great song. It's short, great pop influences, and then just kind of done in a different way, I guess. So that's where I would start.
So beer, music, what else describes JP Lancaster?
I guess, as we were talking before, sports were a big part of my life. I went to university. I went to UBC on a football scholarship, and that obviously had a huge influence on my life. It was I was very involved in music in high school, and then I kind of put that on the back burner when I went to school and played football. But I coach. I'm the head coach of the South Cam senior boys team. And yeah, I think, it seems counterintuitive to have sport and art together. But yeah, it's kind of a different, I guess it's maybe a different side of the community, but very important, I think, I think music is a great opportunity for people, like-minded people, to get together, and I think sports attracts a different, a different kind of person.
Style of community.
Yeah, but equally as important, though, I think, and, there's a lot of very powerful lessons that young men and young women can take away from sport, and I'm happy to kind of give back, for everything that I learned from that.
Yeah, it's super cool that you're not only working at a startup, you've already established one of BC's premier breweries, and now you're volunteering your time at
a lot of time too. Yeah, but like I said, I feel so much time was volunteered when the shoe was on the other foot. So I'm more than happy to give back, and just again, it's community building, and it teaches these kids to feel, and it's kind of whether it's sport or music, when people feel that they belong or are part of something, right? They're going to want to build and add to it as well.
Totally. And what would you like to see? Because I understand you have a young child, and I'm going to be having a daughter very soon, come April. What would you like to see Kamloops develop in the next couple years?
I think. Really, I'd like to see maybe more avenues for art. That's one reason why my wife and I wanted to start a family here. There are a lot of avenues for kids. A lot of them are sports-oriented, though, which is fine. But there's tons and tons of soccer fields, baseball diamonds, etc. So there's no shortage of that. But if my daughter doesn't choose to pursue sports, I would like to see, what other opportunities are there. So I know, the art gallery, for instance, runs some programs, but it would be great to see kind of more of that stuff develop. So there's alternatives, I suppose, to just sports.
Yeah, totally. And so you met me here at Redbeard. You said you just walked on over. So you're on the North Shore. That's right. What's your favorite part of the North Shore on Kamloops?
Well, I think, again, not to overuse the word, but there is a sense of community, a sense of neighborhood. I'm born and raised in Kamloops. I went to elementary school at Arthur Hatton, so I'm very familiar with this part of town. But it's, I know, like, Mitch and Edna, the owners of Redbeard, I know them quite well. Really happy to see their business thrive. Leon Johns, which is a new business down the road. Corey Adkin, good friends with him. That's something that's exciting for me, is seeing young entrepreneurs start up over here and see really kind of the neighborhood, see these fresh takes on business who are doing really good things, in my opinion, seeing them do well, and just kind of seeing that revitalization of life kind of coming back to the Tranquille corridor. And so we see that, When we go to McDonald Park, lots of young families, that's exciting. And so I think just seeing more and more of that develop here on the North Shore is really exciting.
Yeah, and it's extremely exciting that Jeremy joined the NSBIA. So we'll be seeing hopefully some further continued developments on the North Shore. And then we have that project with the micro suites getting built as well.
Right, and so that's incredibly exciting. So there's just a lot of really interesting stuff happening over here, and just very different from when I was growing up here in the 90s, let's say. It's kind of turned around, and there's definitely some excitement. So, I mean, I'm a huge proponent, having worked in the downtown core for 3 years. I fully support, the downtown neighborhood, the Tranquille neighborhood. I think all of those are important, and it's important that they're all successful in their own right.
Yeah, absolutely. It's I find myself saying this more and more: a rising tide lifts all boats. And I can't stress that enough. And I hope people take that away from this podcast, and that they join their local community and just share what they can and be honest and genuine and help where they can, because it's going to come back and help them in the end, just like you said about the shoe and the foot.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, that's something I've seen as well, working at Red Collar with, kind of lifetime entrepreneurs who are at the end of their working career. So that's inspiring, and I learned a ton from the beard cells there. But then seeing on the other side younger entrepreneurs who are getting started in a harder market on the North Shore. It's you kind of need both of those perspectives, though, right? And
totally.
You need the wisdom, but then you also need the youthful energy and that sort of thing.
Yeah, you need to have a solid network or a solid community behind you to really support you.
Yeah. But then having both sides work as well. So, for instance. This week we'll be releasing Factotum and Red Collar. We have a co-branded can of beer coming out. So that's an incredibly cool opportunity for me to kind of get back to the industry that I spent 3 years in and I'm still very passionate about. But then on the other side, that's supporting music, that's supporting my endeavor. So it's cool to kind of have those synergies and collaborative opportunities. And that's really what it's about, is helping one another out, as opposed to always, just competing for your personal benefit.
Totally. And so we're coming up to a close here, JP. What are some final thoughts that you kind of want to share with everyone about who you are, what you're doing, or anything at all?
I think just, I'm someone who, I'm very passionate about music, but I'm a very passionate person about the community that we live in, and I think that's really, for me, whether it's beer, whether it's music, whether it's sport, it's getting people to embrace what we have here and to support the people who are working hard to develop original business ideas or music or whatever. It's just having people rally around that sort of thing is great. And I've been seeing that more and more in the past year with music, for instance. People who are coming out to see live original bands who maybe they wouldn't have ever tried that before. They come out, they have a great experience, they tell their friends, and that's what I'm trying to do with music. It's an opportunity for people to get together, to interact as human beings, to share a moment, and that's kind of really, I think, life at its finest.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, let me know how I can support you as you grow the music scene here in Kamloops, or where can people find you? What's the easiest method to catch you or see what you're doing?
So, I mean, online, Instagram's pretty active. It's the handle's Factotum Co. CO as a company. I'm very, very active on that. I have a Facebook account. There's also the website with our online store where you can buy tickets to shows or releases. That's factotumco.ca. And then other than that, I mean, in brick and mortar businesses, Barnacle Records downtown carries my tapes. The Kamloops Art Gallery store carries my tapes. And yeah, I guess, between those and the online world, it would be pretty easy to know what's going on in town for live music. Usually putting on shows 3 to 4 times a month.
Perfect. Well, thanks for taking the time out of your family day to actually meet with me and to share with our podcast family. And I wish you well, and look forward to hearing everything that you put on, produce, and hopefully we're working together again in the future.
Absolutely. Thank you, Nevin.
This episode of Cameo with Nevin Webster is brought to you by No Limits Fitness. I joined No Limits Fitness a few weeks back when my wife was concerned I wasn't active active enough and that I needed a gym pass. So she gave me a 6-month gym pass, to which I was too afraid to actually learn how to use the gym. So I went to a yoga class and had an amazing experience at yoga class. So I then connected with someone about going to boot camp, and lo and behold, that yoga teacher then kicked my butt at boot camp. I look forward to both more yoga and boot camps at No Limits Fitness, and hopefully I see you there as well.